Hi there. I'm Phil Gusson, the faculty advisor for College of the Canyons. Um, Vicki?
I'm Victoria Dangtumda. I'm SecGen for COCMUN 2020.
I'm Shannon Klopfenstein. I'm part of the COC Model UN staff.
I am Colin Schneer. I'm part of the COCMUN staff.
I'm Daniel Bay. I'm part of the COCMUN staff.
So we want to thank you first for agreeing to participate in our virtual conference and spend a little bit of time explaining to you how to use the functions first in Zoom, but then also how to use the functions in Discord, another program that we're going to be working with. So everybody on the staff is just going to help walk through and show you how this works. Some of you may already be familiar with this if you've been using it in your classes, but we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page when we begin our conference. So if you look over on the far bottom left-hand side of your monitor, on the bottom of your individual screen, you'll see a microphone and a mute button, right? When you click on that, it'll mute your sound, so we won't hear you. So if everybody, I want everybody, Shannon, everybody to mute their microphones. So if you see right there in the corner where Shannon's muted, Vicky's muted, Colin's muted, and Daniel's muted, now you guys talk. Okay, see, we cannot hear them because they're muted. It's a good idea when the conference starts to be muted because sometimes there'll be background noise. Like when we started this video, Shannon's cat was like freaking out, so we had to get her out of the room. So it's a good idea to mute yourself during the conference, and then when it comes time to speak, you just click on the button and speak. So Shannon, just say, click on your button again, unmute yourself, and just say a couple words.
A couple words.
There you go. And you can see over there in the corner that Shannon's, the mute button went off and now it's back on. Okay, so that's the first thing. Also, if you look just to the right of that, you'll see video. And the way that works is that if you click on, right now it says stop video. There we go. Sorry to scare you. Everybody's stopping their video. And then you can start your video again. Now, one of the things that we found in doing this conference, you guys can all bring your videos back. There we go. One of the things that we found during the conference and during our simulations is that if everybody has their video on at the same time, it takes up a lot of bandwidth. And so what we found is that it's much easier if delegates, when they're not speaking, to have their video off and their sound will always be off. And so the way it'll work is if you're called on by the chair to speak, you will turn your sound on and you will turn your video on at the same time. So I'm going to ask everybody to turn off their audio, their videos right now. Very good. And we're going to imagine we're in a committee and it's time for somebody to speak. And so I, as the chair, will say, Shannon, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and fellow delegates.
Very good. So see, this is all okay. Let's, Vicki, you do the same thing.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and fellow delegates. South Africa wishes to be added to the speakers list.
Very good. So everybody can turn your videos back on one more time. So that's how we're going to do it. Everybody keep their videos off. Your sound will always be off. And then when you're recognized to speak, then turn your videos back on. The chair will always be on the screen. The other thing I want to show you in Zoom is something over here. If you can see where my cursor is pointing, it says speaker view. And then let me click on speaker view. What happens on speaker view is somebody, I don't quite understand who gets picked, but call and say something.
Hello.
If somebody starts speaking, Shannon, say something.
Something.
Daniel?
I'll also say something.
Okay, very good. They're a very creative group. Speaker view will enlarge whoever's on the screen when they're speaking. If you click on gallery view, now everybody's visible on the screen. Now we recommend that you use the speaker view, the gallery view, but you can do whatever you prefer. So whatever you want to do. Also, if you look down on the bottom here, you'll see something called the participants list. This is actually going to be an important thing. So I'm going to click on participants. And what you'll see is it lists everybody in the committee. Now we use the participants list for a couple things. There are times when the chair is going to ask, does anybody want to be added to the speakers list, like during a moderated caucus? What you can do in here is, since we're not going to be raising placards, you have the ability with this function to, if you look on the bottom, you can raise your hand. Now, if you click on that little button there, everybody's going to click on it. Now, you might not be able to, we'll see. Right now, I can't see on my screen, on the picture of me, I can't see anybody's hands raised. Colin is the host right now. Colin, can you see everybody's hands raised?
I can see everyone's hands raised on the screen and also in the participants list since I'm the host.
Right. So now you will be able to see the participants list, everybody whose hands up. You won't be able to see it on the screen, but the chair can see everything. So when you raise your hand, the chair will be able to see it both on your personal screen, but also in the list. One of the things you have to remember about the raising your hand function is that you also have to click on it again to lower your hand, right? Otherwise it'll stay that way. But if you forget to do so, the chair can just lower everybody's hand on their own. Okay. Also on the participants list, if you look on the bottom down here, you can see yes, no, and you can see more over here. When normally in a Model United Nations conference, when you vote, the chair will say, all those who are voting in favor, please raise your placard now, and everybody will raise their placard and the chair will count. And then everybody who opposes, everybody raises their placard and then asks for abstentions. In Zoom, what we're able to do is vote simultaneously. So the chair will say, we're going to now vote on this motion simultaneously. What delegates can do is, if you're in favor of the motion, click on yes. If you're opposed to the motion, click on no. And if you want to abstain, more gives you a bunch of different options. You can click on a clock, a coffee cup, a clap, a thumbs up, a like, a dislike. Doesn't matter. Just click on one of them. And the chair, and Colin will be able to see this, the chair will instantly be able to tell how many people have voted for, against, or over more. That's going to stand in for abstaining. Okay, so we're just all going to vote at the same time. So Colin, what was the vote on whatever we were talking about?
Thank you, delegates. It is clear that this motion obviously fails. There are 2 noes and 1 yeses and appears 2 abstentions.
Right, so there you can see it. Vicky's voted yes, Shannon and Daniel voted no. Colin gave a thumbs down, and I used the clock for no particular reason. That's how we'll be taking both. So we'll be taking it simultaneously. And for anybody who's chaired before, this is really very helpful because you don't have to worry about counting. So I'm going to close out the participants list. The next function on Zoom is the chat function. I'm going to click on the chat function. What that allows me to do, if you look down here where my cursor is I can send a message to everybody in the committee. We strongly advise you not do that, right? But if you click on the arrow next to everyone, what it does is it identifies each of the people on there. And so if I wanted to send a personal message to Colin, so I'm just going to send a message that just says hello to Colin. Only Colin will see that message. Nobody else will see that message. And so during committee, this is the equivalent of passing a note. So instead of passing a note, you can chat with somebody and communicate with them in Zoom if you want to. Just be clear, just make sure that you don't click on everyone. If there's a note that you want to send to Colin or an individual delegate, you don't want to accidentally send it to everyone because that could be potentially very embarrassing. So now I'm going to close out the Zoom chat function. There's also a share screen function, but you're not going to be able to use that because it's going to be disabled. The only people who are going to be sharing the screen will be the dais, so don't worry about that. The next one over here is reactions. Now, the reactions button, if you click on it, you can see you have the option of doing the applause, or you have the option of doing the thumbs up. We're using these as sort of the virtual equivalent of snapping your fingers in a committee. So if somebody says something you like, just click on one of those. And whether you do an applause or whether you do a thumbs up is entirely up to you. But that's how we're going to interpret the thumbs up. There may be times when the chair says, does everybody understand? And rather than raising your hand, it might be easier to just put a thumbs up, just to clarify. It's just a quicker way of doing it. Unlike when you raise your hands, when I'll do it myself, when I click on thumbs up, it doesn't stay there forever. It'll stay on for a little while and then it'll disappear on its own. So you don't have to worry about clicking it off. It'll go off on its own. Now those are the primary functions in Zoom that we're going to be using. And let me just ask the staff, is there anything that they want to add to that description?
So as you can see, in parentheses, they have Colin is using his desktop PC, Shannon's using her tablet, and Daniel's using his phone. So in this conference, we encourage delegates to have more than one device. So if something goes wrong, that you're able to like get in touch with the host, which we will explain the function later, and just so to enhance communication. So diversity in devices is encouraged. Furthermore, in the chat function, we will discuss this in a later video, but sending a note to the rapporteur will not be done using Zoom. It will be done using a different function called Discord.
Application.
Thank you. It will be used in a different application, and we will explain that once we get there. So please do not send a note up to the rapporteur if you're asking to be added to a list or you're just letting the rapporteur know what's going on. So yes, that's all from my side.
Anybody else? Shannon.
Also, those who are using things like tablets and phones, the functions are much more different, or that's grammatically correct. We're also providing written documentation of how to use your different devices.
Right, and the hosts, which we'll talk about in a second, we're going to be in communication with the various schools to help delegates work through this, because different devices are slightly different. But one of the things we wanted to show in this video is Daniel's on a phone, Shannon's on a tablet, Colin's on a PC, I'm on a laptop, as is Vicky. Multiple devices can work, but you have to practice on them and you have to make sure that you know how to use them before the conference. So don't wait to the day of the conference to do that. And we're happy to help in any way we can. So you can always reach out to us and we'll be happy to meet with you either individually or a group to help you sort of figure out how to do this. Now, the other program that we're going to be using, or the other application we're going to be using, is Discord. First thing I want to say before anything is don't freak out. Okay, I know that anytime there's an idea of using a new program or a new application, people kind of get scared. And when the idea was first introduced to me to use Discord, I was resistant. But I found it's an incredibly effective form of communication. It does things that Zoom doesn't allow us to do. So before I explain Discord, though, I have to explain a little bit about how the staffing is going to work at our virtual conference. There are going to be two chairs, like a chair and a co-chair, whatever they want to call themselves. And then there'll be a rapporteur. A rapporteur is just somebody who's going to be helping out the chair to carry out their functions. And we're also going to have a host. The host is going to be somebody who's focusing specifically on any kind of technical issues that you might be having during the conference. So I'm going to switch over now to Discord. Now on Discord, what they have both text channels and voice channels. And if you look over on the left-hand side where my cursor is, you can see where it says GA1 announcements. This can be for anybody in the General Assembly, whether it's General Assembly 1 or General Assembly 2. And if you see that hashtag, what that hashtag means is that that is a text channel. You can only communicate via a text channel using text. GA Del Rap, that's going to be for delegates if for whatever reason they want to communicate with the rapporteur, and we'll explain that in more detail. Then GA Del Host, that's if the delegates want to communicate with the host, and I'll explain that more. And then down here, you can see each of these unmod A, B, C, D, E, and F. These are voice channels. And so when you click into the voice channels, what happens is you can actually speak with other delegates. And so to explain that, I'm going to ask Vicky and Colin to go into GA1 Unmod A if they can. So you can see Vicky in there. You can see Colin in now. Now their microphones are muted. I can also click in there. They will be able to speak with one another, just like the way I'm talking right now. And so if you're in an unmod, what Discord allows you to do is to go into these rooms, and you can have a Google Doc opened up where you're working on a working paper or draft resolution or something, and you can talk back and forth, and you can communicate with one another, even though you might be a long way away from one another. And then when the unmoderated caucus is over, the chair will communicate by putting something in the GA announcements text channel, and you'll be notified there's 1 minute left in the unmoderated caucus, right? There's, everybody return. And then everybody will return back to the Zoom conference, and we'll start over again back in Zoom.
If I may also add to that,
There we go.
Obviously different committees will be using the applications differently. So for our GA and specialized committees, Discord is strictly used for, first of all, communicating with the rapporteur, going into unmods, and like communicating with the host. Delegates will not be able to communicate directly with the chair, but the rapporteur will be able to express any concerns you might have or be your link to the chairs.
Exactly. And so one of the reason that you might want to contact the rapporteur, if you're having any problems having to do with your participation in committee, so let's say you've been raising your hand and the chair hasn't been calling on you, that might be a reason to contact the rapporteur on the text channel and say, the chair isn't calling on me, right? That is important information. If that's happening, we want to know about it. Or let's say you have to go to the bathroom, right? You can send something to the rapporteur and just say, hey, I'm not going to be available for, you don't have to explain the details, but you can say, I'm not going to be available for 5 minutes, right? That way, if you're coming up on the speakers list, the rapporteur can notify the chair, by the way, whatever country you're representing isn't going to be available right away. I'll let you know when they return. When you come back, send a text message or a text message to the rapporteur saying, I've returned. We just want to allow for the fact that because everybody's going to be in their own room, there's always interruptions and things that are happening, that we need to deal with that, right? And I'm sure you guys have run into that in your classes. And so we want to make sure that we account for that all in the virtual conference as well. Now the host is a different issue. The reason that you would want to contact the host is if you're having some sort of technical problem. Maybe you're having trouble raising your hand, or maybe your connection is really bad. Let's say you can't figure out how to do something on the device, on your device or devices that you're using. Maybe you're having problems with the sound that you're hearing. You're getting an echo, whatever it happens to be. What you'll be able to do at that point is send a message on the text channel to the host. Let me go back to that, the Discord. That would be right there, the GA Del host. You would send a message to the host on that channel and let them know what problem you're having. And depending on what the problem is, they'll either text back or they may invite you to a voice channel to talk with you about it. But they'll try and work it out as best they can in Discord, right? So to communicate to the chair about issues having to do with participation in the conference, that's going to be to the rapporteur. Technical issues, you'll communicate with the host. And then during unmoderated caucuses, you'll go into the unmod rooms, the voice channels, and you'll speak with delegates. And just like you would in a regular conference, you'll have a Google Doc opened up and you may be working with them and sharing it with one another. That's entirely up to you how you want to do that. Now, you're not required to use Discord to communicate with other people. If you want to text them, via the chat function, that's fine. If you want to try and do everything, via Zoom, that's fine. We found it to be a little cumbersome. That's why we decided to use Discord. But you're welcome to do that. If you have their phone number, you're welcome to call them on the phone. You can do whatever you want. We were just trying to create a platform where it would be as easy as possible for people to communicate, delegates to communicate with one another. So,
and I think one thing we highly suggest is, again, with the two devices, if you're using Zoom, we highly encourage you use it on your computer, as it takes, it's a bigger screen, you can see people talk, and then if you use Discord, we advise you to use it on your phone in unmods, as that could also be easier. But however you want to do that is definitely up to you, but that's just our suggested method. Also, if you're talking on Zoom, for example, and you also have Discord open, we advise that you mute Discord, so that you don't get like echoes and back channels as well.
right, and the biggest thing is to practice using this. So if your team can practice just getting together on a Zoom channel and doing this, let us know. We can give you access to the Discord channels, and you can practice going back and forth, because we know sometimes there are issues with microphones and how they function using two different applications. It's just a matter of practice, and the key is to practice before the day of the conference. This will decrease the likelihood that we're going to have technical problems, but we fully expect to have them, which is why we have assigned a host to every single committee, and they are familiar with a variety of devices. So don't feel bad if you have a technical problem, because we fully expect that to happen, especially in the first virtual Model UN conference.
Furthermore, we have a tech team that's working tirelessly most weekends, and during the week as well, to troubleshoot problems that might happen during the conference and then find solutions. Also, we're offering the option of visiting your classes via Zoom and sending a representative from our tech team to troubleshoot problems that you guys might specifically have within your class, and see how we can help accommodate and promote the best experience in a conference. So we highly encourage people to take us up on that offer. And we would also in depth help you set up Discord, set up Zoom. And I think before the conference begins, we would ask that each school sends a list of their delegates' Discord information, so we add them to the channel before the conference begins.
Absolutely. And I will be in touch with your faculty advisors or head delegates to ensure that we get that information as well. So I hope this has been useful. And if anybody has any parting comments that we haven't touched on, jump in now. Looks like Shannon wanted to add something.
It's just a small thing. I am not sure whether or not I should say. I happen to disagree with our section for the Zoom function. I would use it on your mobile device, simply because if you have an older computer, Zoom is a much bigger application, and it happens, for me at least, since I do have an older computer, it's very cumbersome for me to use Google Docs and whatnot. That's just my suggestion. Like she said, it depends on your technology capabilities as well as your Wi-Fi. So you do need a trial and error to see which works best for you.
Right, and that really is the important thing, is that everybody's going to have slightly different abilities, internet connections, devices, and they can all work, but you have to figure out how to make them work. Colin, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes. So the highlight of that is that everyone's situation is different. The hosts are going to work with you, and we hope that your school will be informed and be able to work together autonomously to sort of figure out what the best situation is going to be for everyone. And with that said, we understand there are certain issues sometimes that we can't solve, that are out of our control. Maybe there is nothing we can do about your connection, and maybe there might be an issue. Maybe someone needs to be called upon during the conference, and they're not there. They're dealing with an issue. We have procedures in place to handle this, and we're going to make sure that the conference goes smoothly and everyone has a good experience. So please work with us, work together, and this is going to go very well.
Yes, we're all very excited about doing this. We don't expect that it's going to be easy, but we have put a lot of groundwork in, which is why we're doing this video. And there are going to be more videos to come where we're going to explain the rules of procedure and how we're going to run the conference and other information that might be helpful. So thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you at COCMUN 2020. Thank you very much.